Afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
How's everybody today? Awake? Yeah. So this should be pretty easy. There's 20 people or so. I was kind of nervous coming from the U.S. to speak to all the experts. I know many of you from Twitter and reading the blogs like Wilco, so I know I have my work cut out for me. So I'll talk a little bit about who I am, but man, this is what I thought in 07, 08, and 09. This was a slide deck presentation I put together. I worked for a large Swiss-based pharmaceutical company out of Basel, Switzerland, so there's only two there, take your pick. And man, I thought VDI was it, and I was going to be the guy. You know, I was into terminal services and XenApp for just like a lot of you for a long time. And I started doing it, right? And I thought it was going to change the world, and therefore I named myself the self-proclaimed VDI evangelist. Come on in. Oh, wrong one. So we embarked on our VDI journey around 2009. We scaled up to about 2,000 desktops. And I started to change my mind. I had this great thing I was in love with. It was almost going to become the reason why I didn't have a job. So I started to change, to think about things. And this is the way I think now. So let me be very clear about this. I still love the technology, but now I'm more like WTF, right? How do you do all this stuff? How do you put it all together? Everybody's pretty much saying the same thing. So I like to make t-shirts, so I figured I'd do something different. So welcome. We're going to talk a little bit about XenDesktop 5.5 versus VMware View 5, right? And also give away some t-shirts as well. I had a quick intro, so I already saw my background. I'll go into a little bit more about who I am. We're going to do a t-shirt giveaway. Don't worry, the ones that I brought to Europe aren't as big as this one. They don't have my name on the back either. Disclaimer, high-level architecture, some of the additions, installation configuration, database management, logging, things like that. The clients, the protocols, user personalization. Storage is a huge topic, right? Printing, app delivery, and my favorite, just some of the things that I learned in my journey. So, who am I? My name is Mark Naus. I'm at ShaneTech on Twitter. And I'm like you guys, not actors, but I'm an IT guy. I'm an architect, engineer, support person. However, whatever bucket you want to put me in, that's who I am. Like these guys, my favorite saying is, did you turn it off and on again? So, I love this show. So my interests, I love music, heavy metal, rock, rap, just about any type of music I like. The only thing I don't like is American country. So, I really can't take it. I will get up and leave an establishment. So, I'm a big beer fan. I love all different types of beers. My favorites are the Belgian ABLs. They've become quite popular in the US. So, my girlfriend tells me I need to lay off the ale a little bit, but
You should come to Germany.
yeah, that's where my family's from. So yeah. All right, so I have 4 T-shirts here. But you guys got to earn them. All right. So I don't know if you guys will get this one, so we might switch this. So this logo was actually taken from the hip hop group. There you go. Large or extra large? That's all I got. It's extra large. Keep it. You're 2X, yeah. All right.
And that's an American 2X.
Yeah. Dave, you can't answer this question.
I wouldn't even know.
You said it the other
Well,
day.
yeah, I love it. I love it. I found it.
So what are the project names for XenDesktop based on?
Wind this way.
You got it. Large, extra large?
In between. Am I big?
Which one would you guess? It's American large.
Yeah, large will do. Large one. It's American.
All right. So now, when you wear this, you'll say some crazy American gave it to me. There you go.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So, what about VMware View? What are those projects based on?
Wine?
No, that's XenDesktop.
Mountains, cats,
Rachel Daytona is one of them.
racetracks.
Racetracks, all right. Extra large?
Actually, I think he just beat me.
Who beat him?
Me.
You did? Large or extra large?
Large.
Large. Well, that's all I have left in large. So you could say you're a fan of Run DMC and VDI. Ah. There you go. Congratulations. Thanks. Okay. One more question. Which VDI broker company did VMware buy in 2007? This is a heavy Citrix audience. Nobody? Take a guess? They're an English company, actually. Starts with a P. Ropero.
I'd like to say I gave him that answer. I said, but you said whole pot. Slightly wrong.
All I have left is an extra large.
Oh,
So.
no, the wife will get it.
No?
And since this is recorded, we can also send her the link to that.
All right, so again, I like to have fun with it. The WTF is more about, wow, why did we ever think about putting our desktops in the data center? Oh my God, what now? So having worked for a company that did 2,000 desktops, and then I moved to a much larger environment, which is about 30,000 for a US bank. They're also here in the UK, our global bank. It's given me a perspective on how many moving parts there are when you scale this, how much money it costs to actually do it, and how operationally difficult it can be if done incorrectly, which most often it is, because we just don't have the time to do everything perfectly. I loved Chris's session earlier. He was talking about VDI is not a project, it's a business initiative, and it really has to be, but most often we just throw things in and worry about it later. So I was looking forward to the notes from the field part. So 45 minutes is not a lot of time for me to discuss every single bit about these two products. David did something quick yesterday. He could have done a probably week-long class on that, and I think XenDesktop is like a 4-day class. So same thing with View. It's a 5-day class. So your mileage is going to vary. Some things that might mean a lot to you may not mean a lot to another guy or girl. When I did this, I set out to come up with a winner. Who's going to win the battle? And that's very difficult to do because we all have our different user requirements, and in our culture, our organizations are all very different. So to say who's the winner, which one's best is like the Mac versus Windows debate. It kind of depends. So this was the shirt I made last year. Now, it's a joke really, right? Engineer, test, and plan, but like I said, we always can't do that. So we just do our best. All right, let's get into it. So XenDesktop, the one thing I love about it is the fact that you have choices with regards to your virtualization. Okay, so how many people here are VMware hypervisor shop? And you guys run XenDesktop on top of that? Or do you use Zen server for XenDesktop?
They're using XenDesktop.
Okay. That's pretty common, especially in really large shops in the US. They're usually XenDesktop as the broker and VMware as the hypervisor. I know why that was a few years back. Now, the reasons for that are becoming less and less. In 2008, I used to say this saying when I was asked which one's better. I would say, Citrix is an application delivery system with a hypervisor. VMware View is a hypervisor with some brokering bits in there for your desktops. And the reason it's not a knock to VMware, but it really was. It was all about the hypervisor, and then they bought that broker from Propero, and it really just brokered the desktop. That's all it did. There wasn't that DNA that you find in Citrix, where printing, yeah, it's done. You know, we have these policies, speed screen, HDX, aggressive display, all that stuff. That's not there. You know, the first iteration of View, when it was purchased from Propero, was called VDM, Virtual Desktop Manager. It was actually the VDI product. It was RDP and RGS. That was it. So if RDP didn't fit your needs, you were across a distance 150 milliseconds or more, too bad. So that's where it kind of, you know, got a reputation for being less than. And it might have been true, but we'll talk about how View 5 is starting to change that perception. So I really like this part. I get to choose whichever hypervisor, and I don't have to forklift something in and out when my business requirements change or the market changes. But I still have to worry about a lot of infrastructure, mainly SQL. I can't stress enough how important it is to work well with your SQL administrators, or if you're the SQL administrator, it's very important that you guys communicate. You have to express your needs and what you're going to want from them, and they may have needs they're going to want from you. So socialize that early on in your XenDesktop 5.5 initiatives. Talk to your database people and say, look, this is how it needs to work. Use a machine account. Okay, that might not be allowed. Get that out in the open. Start having these conversations. Okay, use a machine account versus like a Windows Authentication user account. So, right, Dave? Some organizations don't allow that. I know for us, I'm at the bank. It's not forbidden, but it's something they're like, huh? Why is it doing that? So we had to have these conversations early on. Of course, it needs a license server and Active Directory. All these implementations are going to need AD. And as we know in the Citrix world, everything we do talks to the license server. Right? Another thing about my presentation, and to say this earlier, is I'm probably going to tend to speak more on the enterprise side of things, the Platinum, because that's what I'm more familiar with. I've never even tried the VDI in a box thing. Even in the SMB world, I always went right to XenDesktop. First things first is the controllers. So 4.0, we had this master backup member implementation. 4.0 also had this reputation when it was compared to VMware View of being very difficult to install and configure. You had to have terminal services role installed. It didn't need terminal servers, but it was based on IMA out of COM from the presentation servers ported over, so you needed these things there. I honestly didn't think it was that difficult to configure, but compared to the way VMware View was, yeah, it's almost like installing Office when you install View, just next, finish. So if you're planning to do any streaming, you're also going to need some PVS servers. Okay, I put everything here in pairs because in the enterprise, you're not doing anything standalone. You can do that in the SMB, sure. I get one PVS server and one desktop controller, yeah, and it'll be fine. And to me, the SMB in the US is a little different than it's defined here. To me, the SMB in the US, it could be anywhere from 2 users to 500, 1,000, and that's about it, really. More so, we're in the 500 to 1,500 area. And still, I would probably choose XenDesktop over the VDI in the box thing. I don't know why. I guess I'm more comfortable with it and I know how to support it. That's probably the biggest reason. So, the enterprise demands high availability. When I was at the pharmaceutical company, from the architectural mandate was that everything you put in must have HA or some type of fault tolerance. It wasn't accepted. So, you're also going to need a pair of XenApp servers too, because you'll want to leverage that in your licensing scheme. You'll want to have what you're paying for available. And I also often use XenApp to publish the consoles. I never install the whole full suite, and usually in enterprise. What we do is we get the bits. We, like you guys know, probably do the same thing. Break it apart. Often break it because it wasn't intended to be installed that way. And then we put it back together in components. For instance, the controllers get installed on controllers, desktop director on IIS, desktop studio somewhere else. Everything is split. Couple web interface servers. Again, you're not going to run one. Possibly some NetScalers or access gateway, some type of security device there, and your receiver. And if you're running Xen client, you'll stream your stuff down to it. So there's a lot of stuff there. I kind of went redundant on what you need. If we look at View, so no choice. You're going to go with VMware View, you're going to go with ESX. You just have to, it's their product, that's what they do. That's their desktop virtualization product. Again, you're going to need Active Directory, and you'll need some type of file serving mechanism for your, if you're using XenApp, which that's included in the Premier license, I would. But now we have these things called connection servers. They're similar to the controller, but different. NoSQL. It uses Active Directory lightweight services, Atom, the old name, LDAP. We still have some type of security servers, and we still have our clients, but now they've added this new thing. It's called the transfer server. That was with 4.6. So that statement and that perception, oh, View is much easier to install than XenDesktop, is going away, because now I need this transfer server, now I need these security servers. Oh, and by the way, you got to find your own load balancer. We don't sell that, and don't put this stuff in without front-ending it with something. When I was at the pharmaceutical company, we had one connection server, and it would go down all the time. And I would ask IBM, "Can you bring up a replica for me?" He's like, "We can, you know, put a load balancer in front of it." Oh, that's too much money. We can't do it. So my days weren't fun very often. Another component here that I'll talk about later is the View Composer. I guess I should have picked those colors. So I have to say, for just the VDI edition, I mean, you get a lot of stuff there. You can do almost anything you want to do besides use XenApp and Xen Client and PVS, but this will get you going. You'll have MCS, you'll have your profile management. I think isn't that a change, Dave? UPM, the profile?
Kind of, yeah. We used to bug it in Enterprise and Platinum as well.
Yeah, now it's knocked down. That's great. So you get this turnkey solution. It's for the VDI, I think it's in the US about $95. That's pretty good. You got Xen server. You could do an awful lot with this. Some of these features down here, even in a large enterprise, we don't use. Branch repeater, I like it. I've put it in, but it's such a battle to fight with the WASP guys and the riverbed. so I don't even bother anymore. You come to the table with them, you know, they want to talk about CIFS and MAPI and SharePoint. That's all they want to talk about. And I said, yeah, but I have this project. I'm deploying, you know, 4,000 users to WePro in India, and this, you know, I need something here, and I got a T1 line, E1 line, and what am I going to do with that? Oh no, you know, well, the Riverbed can do it. Okay, so now you know the deal. Remove encryption, remove compression, the whole thing, and it's like, I always say, it's like kissing your sister, right? It's affectionate, but it's not like kissing your wife. It's different. So, HCX Smart Access, the Smart Access Policy Controls, and Single Sign-In, that was Password Manager. I haven't been in an organization that uses it. I'd like any of you guys have used it to comment, go right ahead. EdgeSite, I have used it. I like it, but it's something that my junior admins have difficulty wrapping their head around. While I'm here, I was talking about. So I've also implemented Liquidware Labs Stratosphere UX. It's not EG, it's not intuitive, it's okay, it's actually a decent product for the money. But one thing is very easy for my admins to grasp. One single pane of glass, they get it done. They see the IOPS, they see everything they need. EdgeSite.
Which one is this?
Liquidware Labs, it's called Stratosphere UX. They do a VDI fit and a VDI monitoring solution. ZenVault, I haven't used it yet. I think this is awesome though. You know, you get XenApp too. Powerful, very powerful. You guys know about the concurrent user thing, right? But that's a powerful solution to bring to your customers or your organization. What about VMware View? 2 editions. I think they're priced at $150 and $250 in the US. You get ThinApp with it, that's a big thing, right? It comes with it. You get vSphere Desktop, that's their desktop license, it's the Enterprise Plus license. So you're getting the best vSphere. That VRAM tax is not in there. It's made for desktop virtualization. You're getting VMware vCenter, and it's the heart of it. So this large bank that I'm at, before one of the hot fixes for XenDesktop 4, where it wouldn't broker connection if Virtual Center was down. vCenter, it could be the bane of your existence in a large deployment of XenDesktop, even View. That hotfix was really needed. So what would happen is if vCenter was down, no connections broke. vCenter goes down, that service, it's not rock solid, especially for desktop virtualization, because there's more things going on to the vCenter server than there is in server. Server virtualization is just guys bringing up VMs, cloning. For a desktop, it's constant, power on, check state, power off. It's always speaking to that service. The pool manager is talking to it a lot. So that's kind of a plus for using maybe a different virtualization solution, no vCenter. I'd like to see them get this to where it's more redundant. So we'll get to other things. This is new. Persona management, that's finally some desktop DNA coming into the product. That's the RTO license. Finally, we start to see it's not just a broker and a hypervisor anymore. They're starting to think about how we deploy things. vShield endpoint, verdicts, not out on that yet. McAfee Move, things like that. I think they're great, they have promise, but some of the security teams I go up against say, no way, man, doesn't meet our requirements.
This is when you have an external
Yeah, VM looking up and checking it, so that.
and checks all the VMs on
Right. The premise of it is excellent. I hope it gets to a point where, hey guys, oh, where's mine? So I hope it gets to a point where it actually does offload some of those security cycles and IOPS and all that stuff to some type of appliance, but we'll see. I think Trend is probably the one that's closest, and I think that's because they started first. So, are you guys using the Trend product? I saw a demo of it. That was it. All right, so moving right along. You missed the beginning.
I would treat it you were.
So installation. Remember how I said earlier, oh, XenDesktop's the harder of the VDI products to install. View is so easy. It used to be, because all it was a connection server. Next, open some ports, and you were good to go. In the VDM 2.0 product, it didn't do a lot except broker connection. So yeah, it's going to be easy to install. Not saying it's better, but then they came up with link clones. And if you're using link clones, you need this component here. It's called View Composer. Another installation that you need a database for, which I'll talk about later. You need to have vCenter, and now you need this new thing called View Transfer Server if you want to use local mode, offline.
Which you don't have on XenDesktop.
Well, it's synchronizer.
You mean scanning client then?
Yeah.
But they don't work together. You can't offload the XenDesktop VM to the same client so far.
Right.
Which is a pain in the ass because
Okay, children watch those videos.
Do they? Oh boy. Desktop Studio. You need the framework. That's about it. I like this on my workstation as an app server. Somewhere else besides the controller. Desktop Director, again, I don't load that on the same box it's running the controller. That would go on a separate IIS server. And it's great that now I can manage XenApp 6.5 with this as well. Moving towards that single pane of glass that we so desperately need in operations. Is it Jasper, right, or something like that? That's really going to make things better? Yeah. You don't know? I heard it on Twitter. So, database requirements. You know, this is big right here for, I said it earlier, for XenDesktop 5.5. You have to socialize the permission model. It is different. There's the knowledge base article. It's also at the end. Mirroring and clustering. In the deployments I've been in, it's mirroring. I don't know, what about you guys? Clustering, is that popular in the UK, or is mirroring more?
Clustering is generally more popular in America.
Yeah, we use mirroring more. The connection server for VMware View, it installs during the installation of the connection server. There is no separate database. If you want fault tolerance of that database, you need to install Replica, an additional connection server, and then load balance them with some type of load balancer. There is no intelligent load balancing like we're so used to in XenApp. It would be, if I want to load balance, I'd have half the room on one server and half the room on the other. That's the poor man's way to do it. View Composer requires SQL Server 2005 SP3 later and SQL Express. I would only use Express if I were like in the SMB, like we've done in XenApp. You know, the Access SQL Express for small implementations, small customers who don't have the money for a Windows license, and most importantly a SQL license, and don't really require that HA functionality in a fault-tolerant world. But this is something that kind of changes, so I didn't need it for the connection server, but if I want to use event logging, I need to use SQL Server or Oracle. So again, I do need some type of database. This can be tricky if you are doing it. I suggest you check the knowledge base article. View Composer, like I said, it's installed on the vCenter server, so you do need to base it on the vCenter database requirements. So, supported virtualization, I touched on this already. All the big three, VMware View 5, only the vSphere line as late as U3. Management, Desktop Studio, Desktop Director, Edge Site, and PowerShell. Really powerful. If you guys aren't getting your PowerShell skills up to date, I recommend it, because everything you do in here is some command that's from the GUI, translated to PowerShell command, and runs. You actually see it. VMware View uses View Administrator. It's built on Adobe Air. It's a decent console, actually. And of course, the vSphere client and the web client 5.0 is not too shabby either. we learned yesterday, and I've actually used it. The View Power CLI, this extends on the vSphere Power CLI, but with one difference. You can only execute it on the controller. So it's not like you can control, like we do with the Power CLI for vSphere. I have that run on my laptop, but I'd like to have it as well for View, but I can't. I gotta run stuff on the controller. I think they're gonna change that shortly. Administrative logging. Again, I come from regulated environments, pharmaceutical companies, and banks. Major thing here is XenDesktop 5.5, no configuration logging, like I know it. So I know configuration logging, the one that I had in XenApp, where an admin removes users from a published application. I could go somewhere to see that they did it. Nothing here. The closest thing I get is this. I can log what the desktop studio has done. That is not going to fly in a regulated environment. It will. You'd have to get some type of risk assessment and a remediation program. I think that's coming out in a future release though, right Dave?
We'd be foolish not to.
Yeah, that's big for them. Event logging in VMware View uses SQL or Oracle, and the data may be manipulated with Crystal Reports, Excel, however you're used to doing it. Put front end it with a web page, talk back to the SQL server, however you want to do it.
Does it give you a better view, more detailed view?
Yeah, if I delete a pool, if I remove a desktop from a pool, you can see who did it and what the action was done. That's really important. In a small shop with only 5 admins, yeah, I can figure out who made the change. In a big shop with 30 people maybe performing actions in that console, which that's the environment I'm used to, I've got about 40 essays, we have to know. So. Client connection software. You know, the Windows client is the king. I've always said this. I've never been a fan of the JICA client. I know it works, but if you want the best user experience, all the features and all the fun and games, it's the receiver. And again, for Windows, it's also the king. I'm talking more about the View stuff because you guys were bombarded with HDX and what it does and what it doesn't do. So as you can see from this feature matrix, you get everything except Wise because they're talking about embedded here. You get all the features. Most importantly, local mode, right? You can stream an offline VDI. It's type 2, it's not type 1 like Xen Client. Multiple monitors, single sign RSA, virtual printing, big. Location-based printing, that's pretty big. Power management. And most importantly though, and why I'm highlighting this is you get the PC over IP protocol and you get RDP. All right. This is where I'm going to end VMware. The Mac client's getting better. It used to be like the stepchild of the Windows. It's getting better. I like it. I like the newest version. It works very well. This client, this is nothing but a wrapper around RDP. The Mac OS client for View is just the RDP client with some stuff. That's it. You don't get PC over IP.
It will be there in the next like 2 months.
I hope so. They have to catch up on there because it's very important. Yeah. They have to.
We talked to them quite honestly. And
Yeah.
because we're currently in the decision between this one and this one.
Oh, you are? Cool. So this is key. A subset of features available on other clients. Yeah, no kidding. I don't get any of this. I don't get any of this. I get location-based printing, but that really has nothing to do with the client. That's a GPU on the back end. And my good old friend RDP. So in order to get the View client to work on a Mac, you first have to install the remote desktop connection version 2.0, which most of you probably have, but telling your user to go do that, good luck.
They will merge with Fusion, and the VMware workstation will also get the View client.
Cool. I didn't
So
know
all
that.
we want,
Yeah, all
if
we
you
want.
want to,
That's
we can
cool.
have everything like central, local mode, and the full.
All one. Good.
Because you can't do snapshots and stuff like that.
Right.
Not on in the system itself.
Yeah. So mobile, XenDesktop 5, the mobile receiver, iOS and Android. No arrow-rich features. I'll get to that in a minute. The View 5.0, I know there's the YouTube videos of people comparing things, watching YouTube. Why I want to watch YouTube videos on XenDesktop and View and not go local, I don't know. But it is, everybody seems, when they want to talk about performance, YouTube is like the benchmark. They're both pretty good, actually. I like the View trackpad. I don't know if you guys have ever used it. It's not bad. It's actually very impressive. Why that client is ahead of the macOS client, I don't know, but that's for VMware. I do like the receiver as well. Each version gets better. The first version that came out, you had to have the dexterity of a surgeon and the hands of a little boy to use it. Now it's getting better. I like it. I can actually do something on it. It's not just consumption anymore, it's creation. And here's the key thing. So the iOS and Android, you're going to get PC over IP, but not RDP. So it's PC over IP only. The biggest complaint I have about all these products is I never know what I get when I do this. And I never know when I do this, why didn't I get that? Parity, feature parity is very important, and it all needs to collude into like one delivery stack. You're going to get the same experience no matter what you get. I know as a consultant, one of my biggest complaints with users, specifically with XenApp, was every time I use this, it feels like the first time. That's the thing as engineers and architects we should try to avoid. It should always be consistent. Users love consistency. All right, why do I bring this up? This Aero glass, why is it so important? If you don't know, that's the cool stuff that Windows 7 does. It uses the GPU, the flip, you know, they're kind of cool. The thing is, though, when you're delivering a desktop to a user and they have a Windows 7 PC at home, most likely they're getting these features already, and then they come and they get this thing that it's not as cool. It doesn't have the same things. How come when I hover over my icon in the system or the taskbar, I don't see the video playing? It just tells me what is there. So consistency. Here is a fundamental difference between the two products, and I guess where the product managers are going with them. And like I said earlier about the comparisons too. So they're using HDX rich graphics. They're leveraging the client GPU, all right? They're using some of the power down low. That's why you're not going to see this in thin clients probably anytime soon until they catch up, or you go to a class, a thin client that has a heavier GPU. And most importantly, that thin client manufacturer integrates the receiver for that into there. All right? Then you'll have that parity. You need a 2 GHz processor, 1.5, Citrix receiver 3 for Windows. Right there. I have to use a Windows client. When I first started VDI, what annoyed me the most is I need Windows to deliver Windows, you know, so I didn't see any economic benefit. I still needed a PC to deliver a virtual desktop. Yeah, thin clients are great. We've all done them. We know the pitfalls, but you want consistency. I hope the feature parity grows to a point where you get the same experience no matter what device. That what you know, snack, dine, and feast. I don't think he says feast, but that's actually what Templeton should say, because it's eating. Anyway, the point he's trying to make is no matter what device you're on, you get the same experience. But no, Mark, I don't, because when I get to my Android or the thin client, guess what? I get like this, you know, Windows 3.1 looking thing. So no, it's not. It's not the same experience. So how do you enable it? It's pretty easy. Policy, just set it up, go. I was using it upstairs when the internet connection was pretty decent, and it actually worked from here to my lab at home. So I had full Aero experience on XenDesktop 5.5. I'd love to show you, but with all of us having 3 devices, by the way, Alex, you need 3 times however many people are here IP addresses next time. I have 3, he's got 2. All right, so key fundamental difference on how these two products are delivering that same experience. VMware vSphere 5 came out with something that's hardware version 8 and the 3D graphics acceleration, all right? No host GPU, well that's kind of cool because that gives me that consistent experience. But as we know in virtualization, guess what guys, anything you do in that VM, there's some type of tax, there's no free lunch. You want to accelerate something, guess what? It's going to come from somewhere, most likely the CPU and RAMs. That may impact your host density. All right?
Just charge differently if the user wants to have that experience.
Yeah, fine, yeah. Exactly. You need to, and actually this is done in the View client. I'm just showing you where it really takes place to contrast it to Citrix. Citrix, it took place in a policy and you had to have all these things line up. Here, you have to have the support, VMware Virtual Machine Hardware 8, and you'll see this be enabled. You actually see the broker when you enable this. Here's another thing. Again, I don't get the same experience. So what if I did want RDP? Well, guess what? If you want this arrow, you can't go back. You have to use PC over IP. 3D rendering, you have to enable it, and you do the monitors and the resolution. And you say how much video memory, and that relates to this. You actually see the broker coming into the VM, editing it, and changing it based on your changes in View 5. Protocols, I'm not going to talk about HDX. You guys are bombarded with it. PC over IP and RDP. So VMware View came out and they said 75% improvement. I don't have the network benchmarks, and the more I thought about it, I think Sean and Benny do a better job than I could. Go to them, they're probably going to update it. I do have an Apposite Mini. I think the thing's great. It is a little pricey, but
They did a presentation at Citrix Synergy 3 weeks ago, and they said on 5.5 and 5.0, and they said 5.0 is almost the same now.
I agree. It's gotten much better.
They want to make it public over the next months.
Cool. And here's a big reason why this GPO now, that you can start manipulating these characteristics of the protocol. And in all fairness, Citrix has been doing this for a long time. But feature parity is coming with the two products, and the protocol is getting better. I do see, especially this big one, turn off build to lossless, reduction in the amount of network bandwidth required. The one good thing about PC over IP is, though, that it's not bursty. ICA, you can burst up to 1 megabit, 2 megabits sometimes, especially with the arrow. You'll see a lot of bursty traffic. PC over IP is more consistent, it just uses a little more. These features are getting it to the point where it's using less. And it's WAN friendly. Profile management, so we have the UPM, right, that was the Sapago purchase, the RTO purchase over on the View side. GPO driven, network shares required. In a XenDesktop world, it's a user store. Here they call it a user profile repository. This is a separate install from the virtual desktop agent. This is included. That's kind of cool. So if you want Persona, it's just a checkbox, or check it or uncheck it. I like that. That's a big plus for them on that side. Here's the GPU. GPO. All right, so storage. I don't have much time left now. XenDesktop 5.5, MCS and IntelliCache, which requires Xen server, streamed as provisioning services. On the View side, they have link clones. Are you guys have you played with the link clones at all? You like them?
Yeah. Perfect.
This new feature in
Especially
vSphere
for
5.
people like doing packaging and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm going to skip this because I'm running out of time. It's just talking about different pools. This is something that's often overlooked. So what makes up a link clone? Now remember that statement, oh, View is so much easier? Well, it's really not. There's a lot to this stuff. So you have a parent VM. It's the gold image, right? All the crap, you guys know. You power it off, you manually take a snapshot of it. Okay? What happens then is behind the scenes when you do your procurement, you create the replica disk, which should be stored on higher speed storage, some type of SSD or tier 1. Then you create with the OS disk, the link clone disk, and that's an empty disk that catches the delta, kind of like the write cache of PVS, if I could equate it to something similar. The disposable disk is sort of, again, like the write cache, but it's really disposable this time. The persistent disk, that's the user data disk. They changed the name, it used to be the UDD. It redirects like my document stuff over to there to the persistent area that doesn't get blown away. And the internal disk, it's a small vDisk that's used for configuration. Keep going. All right. Here's where this is important. So when you refresh the desktops, you're going to put them back to their original size, okay? It's intrusive, so you got to make sure that that original vDisk is what you want. When you recompose, let's say you made a change to the parent and you want to push that change out. When you rebalance, it just distributed amongst your storage data stores. And it's found there. You highlight your pool and go to View Composer.
But you
Printed.
wipe out what is personal,
Yeah, you wipe it out. Yep.
which is great about the WinQ. They used to be available for View and for XenDesktop. I don't think that Citrix will continue
No.
to support it on the View platform.
So 5.5 printing, the UPD, policy driven. You're going to get laser and phaser when it comes out. Virtual printing, you guys know this story. It's licensed from ThinPrint. It is part of the View installation. That's really cool. I like that single agent install and I get everything. Some caveats with USB print devices and location-based printing is GPO. Again, it's getting better. It's not the Citrix policies that I'm used to, but certainly effective and it does work. App delivery, you get XenApp, and then you mentioned RingQ. That's kind of cool. It's not a delivery mechanism, but it helps you in the personalization, user-installed apps. ThinApp, solid product. I hope they continue developing on that product and don't ditch it. It is a good product. All right, so what I've learned is know your users, number one, right? No matter what it is, XenDesktop or View. Like Chris said, it's not a VDI project, it's more about a business project. Use the tools like Liquidware Labs and things like that. Lakeside, the new assessment tool coming out, it's very helpful. Good. Monitor your VDI user experience. If you're going to scale this thing, you're going to have something to monitor it. I mentioned Liquidware Labs, Stratosphere UX, EG, amazing tool, EdgeSite, get it in there. Something to see what your hosts are doing. If you're working with the vSphere team and they might use an Intuitive or some other monitoring, you have to work with them. Read the documentation. You got to read this stuff. There's so many things to these products. Test your images and changes. What I mean by that, you got to load test. I'm not telling you to go out and buy VSI. You have to load test your stuff. Where you might have thought that you were fine with IOPS, you were fine with compute, you had some type of agent, let's just say it's a data leakage protection agent, and all of a sudden your users are complaining of poor performance. Why? Because you spec your storage based on averages, not on peaks or changes. Having a load testing tool is very crucial. Most importantly, your load tests. If they don't have any type of dedupe aware logic, your tests are going to be skewed. You're going to go to production. You're going to say, man, this doesn't equal my tests. Yeah, that's because your script that you were running was the same thing for everything that you're doing. So you need to have some randomization. Don't castrate PDI. Joe Sean said that, and I wondered why he said it, because I was a terminal server guy in Citrix XenApp, and the best thing we did was like give the user the start menu. It was this big, and they loved it. No, they didn't. They hated it. If you're going to give them VDI, try to give them something that they're like used to, right? Socialization in the enterprise is key. What do I mean by that? The enterprise is a big moving ship. It turns slowly. If you're in a big shop, 50 to 100,000, 300,000 users, you're going to have different people doing different things. This doesn't work anymore. That worked for distributed computing and it worked well. It doesn't work in VDI. You must become friends. Take them out to beers, I don't know. You have to talk to the storage guys, you have to talk to the network guys, you have to talk to the desktop teams, you gotta make it work. Now yeah, if you're the one-man band, sure, go ahead, but in a big place you're not gonna be. VDA upgrades can have a big impact. Depending on the type of ESD solution you're using, upgrading VDA where you have to uninstall and reinstall it on 50, 30,000 desktops is a big operational task, and it takes teams months to complete. So think about that. Think about how you're deploying VDA, how you're going to upgrade it, especially in a one-to-one. PVS, no problem. Do it in my gold image and give it out. As Jim would tell you, you can never have enough IOPS. It's like horsepower in a car or a motorcycle. You can never go fast enough. So, but I know there's a price to that. This was also something I took, not that I took it from Jim, but he mentioned this in his white paper when Jim Oil was talking about IOPS, but I think it was kind of glanced over. If you're going to do non-persistent VDI, I mean PVS or streamed image or link clones, do not underestimate personalization in apps and the engineering time and cost to actually make them work. And Office is easy, guys, yeah. But then if you're just delivering Office, why are you doing that? You might as well go back to RDS, Terminal Service Internet, all right?
Local.
What's that?
Local.
Yeah, or use it locally. Some of these apps are tricky, and that's what I found when I really got deep into the non-persistent world. Yeah, my core apps got them to work, they were great. But then there was this other app that did this one-time user configuration that I just couldn't nail, and you have to have products like Absence and Res, and that's where those UPM and the RTO stuff just might not cut it for you. You need the Absence and Res power. Use automation tools at the onset. What do I mean by that? Well, so what? You've deployed 30,000 desktops, now what? Let me give you the real world scenario, what happens when you do that. People are most often just keeping their spreadsheets of the desktops they have out there, right? When a user leaves, it just stays there. So you might have 30,000, 50,000. Guess what? You probably really don't. You probably only have about half that, or 3/4 of it, because you didn't reclaim anything. There's no reclamation. There's no control. As much as I don't like it, ITIL does have a place. Capacity management, demand management, it's all very important. If you're going to scale VDI, the automation tools are your friends. All right, they do cost money, but get them in there at the beginning. Huge. Don't overlook the ancillary costs for servers to really make this environment work. Absence, personalization server, 8.1, great product. I can only do a certain amount of users per server. I need more of these. In a big environment, I make 20 Absence personalization servers. That adds the cost. If you didn't budget for that, guess what? You're not doing it. Next year, maybe, you'll be using Hiving. So, perform your network simulations. I can't stress that enough. Get your bosses or whomever your team, go get a network nightmare box, play around with it, see what it feels like to be on a T1 with variable latency and jitter over 300, 400 milliseconds. It's not fun. And what we're doing here, and you guys don't know how cool this is that I could come here and do this with you. We really don't have this a lot in the US. We have vendor sponsored and they tell you what to say. They critique your slides, so this is really cool. All right, and keep doing it, because what I found, the young guys, they get one piece, they get another, they don't know how to glue it together. And it takes experts like you guys to do it and bring them along. Big thanks to Dwayne Lesnar, Andre Liabochi. If you want to know more about Vue, he's the guy. He's the one that saw the space and said, hey, there's nobody blogging about Vue really. There's a couple people here and there. He's got some killer stuff out there. It's even about VDI, it's just good. Jerry Gibson, cool guy, you guys probably know him. John Dodge, a friend of mine, Jim, Carl, Steven, Daniel, and William Lamb. Great resources, and thank you.